Hey, this podcast holds nothing sacred. This is Life, Tech, and Sundry. And what is Sundry? It's our experiences put in a melting pot to the internet. So join us on this wild ride called the LTS Podcast. Follow us at LT Sundry on Twitter, LTS.pod on Instagram, Life, Tech, and Sundry on YouTube, and all your favorite podcast distribution services. Stay frosty.
The Battle of the Price Tag. Why America Stopped Haggling. If you walk into a traditional street market in Cairo, Bangkok, or Mexico today, you aren't just entering a place to buy goods. You are walking into a theater. For the mind? No. For the goods. The price of a blanket, a basket of spices, or a pair of shoes is treated as a fluid, highly theatrical conversation. The seller pitches high, you counter low, you both insult each other's lineage, and eventually you shake hands in the middle in a social ritual as old as civilization itself. But if you try that exact same theatrical performance in a Target right here in the United States, or at a Walmart cashier line, the person behind the register is going to stare at you like you are losing your mind. In the US, haggling has been so thoroughly wiped out of the daily landscape that we view fixed pricing as an absolute law of nature, except farmer markets sometimes or flea markets. Mind you, there aren't that many, but to the majority of the places in the United States, haggling out of the picture. We've been conditioned to look at a little white piece of sticky paper, accept it as the gospel truth, and swipe our cards in absolute silence. But historically, fixed pricing is a bizarre, incredibly modern anomaly. For 99% of human history, buying anything required a verbal war. So how did the Western world, and the US specifically, manage to completely sterilize the marketplace? How did we transition from a culture where every single transaction was a personal, high-stakes psychological battle to one where a barcode does all the talking? Salutations, I'm your host, Marcos Lopez, and you've tuned into LTS Out of Office, this episode where we pull back the curtain on our everyday financial assumptions before the psychological tricks leave your wallet completely hollowed out, empty if you will. So grab your coffee, step out of the office, and lock in. We've cracked barter. Now brace for the raw art of haggling, where the floor is never the limit, starting it off with bizarres, biases, and the high trust divide. Haggling is far more than an alternative way to calculate cost. It's a complex psychological mirror that reflects how a society views trust, status, and interpersonal relationships. Across most of the developing world, haggling remains the default operating system for open-air retail. In markets like Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East, a posted price is viewed merely as an opening invitation to dance. It is never treated as a final decree. In non-Western market cultures, transactions are fundamentally personal and relational rather than purely transactional. Bargaining functions as mechanism for clienteling and building rapport. It is a way of sussing out whether the person across from you is an honest operator or an absolute grifter. Economists note a massive correlation between low trust societies and the prevalence of daily street-level haggling, meaning if society doesn't trust you, haggling is king. You need to haggle to get the better deal because they don't trust you. You as the seller, you as the buyer, zero trust. When civilizations don't trust formal institutions, corporate oversight, or uniform regulation to protect them from getting ripped off, They take control. They enforce the regulatory framework into their own hands via verbal combat. While haggling promises a quote-unquote fairer price based on real-time market sentiment, it introduces massive economic inefficiencies. It creates a steep introvert tax and a massive asymmetry of information. The loud, hyper-aggressive, or culturally fluent consumer wins, while the quiet or uninitiated gets systematically squeezed. Constant bargaining inflicts a massive cognitive and emotional toll on a population's daily timeline. Every single minor interaction, from buying a gallon of milk to getting a taxi ride, becomes a high-stakes negotiation. This turns a basic trip for groceries into a stressful psychological battlefield. Even within hyper-aggressive haggling cultures, there are strict unwritten moral boundaries regarding what can be negotiated. In Southeast Asia, bargaining for basic agricultural food staples is heavily discouraged and viewed as an insult. Nothing charged, but it's viewed as an insult by the culture. This happens because basic sustenance is treated as a common necessity rather than a speculative asset loop. The seller in a traditional bazaar always possesses an invisible structural advantage over the casual browser. The vendor knows the absolute rock bottom wholesale cost of the item, their precise competitor margins, and how to read your body language. Meanwhile, you're flying completely blind on pure raw vibes. For eons, this fluid, high-stress conversational marketplace was the only model humanity knew. But when a small group of religious radicals in the West decided that shifting prices was a sin against God, they laid the foundation for the sterile American retail grid, kicking it off to the Quaker Revolt and the Wanamaker Revolution. The disappearance of haggling from regular American storefronts wasn't a slow natural evolution. It was a deliberate top-down revolution fueled by a radical religious morality and industrial scale. In the 1700s, Quaker merchants in early America pioneered the radical concept of fixed pricing on purely religious grounds. The Quakers believed that charging different prices to different people for the exact same physical item a violation of Christian equality. Damn, that's very forward thinking. To them, price discrimination was a form of moral deceit. I can respect that. In the early 19th century, merchants like Rollin, Jose Massey, and John Wanamaker brought the Quaker ideal to a mass scale. Wanamaker opened his massive department store in Philadelphia and declared a strict policy: one price for all customers, period. Plain figures on every article. He introduced the modern retail price tag as a badge of corporate honesty. The birth of the modern department store made the time-consuming process of haggling an operational nightmare. When you have thousands of urban factory workers flooding into a massive retail space on their short lunch breaks, you cannot afford to have a 15-minute debate over a pair of socks. Industrial efficiency demanded instant speed. Fixed pricing allowed corporate department stores to completely restructure their labor model. Before the price tag, store clerks had to undergo years of apprentice training to master the psychological art of negotiation. With a fixed tag, stores could hire cheap, low-skilled workers who merely pointed to the paper. Labeled prices effectively stripped the human connection out of everyday commerce. Shoppers could now walk down aisles, browse for hours, and make financial decisions entirely inside their own heads. They never had to speak a single word to the human being selling the goods. The price tag gave the average consumer a powerful, comforting sense of objective fairness. It removed the personal performance anxiety of shopping. It assured the customer that a wealthy socialite and a working class immigrant were both parting with the exact same amount of cash. Fixed tags allowed corporate empires to standardize and track their revenues across massive geographic chains. A single corporate headquarters could now control the exact profit margins of 1,000 separate locations. This removed local clerk discretion and locked down corporate budgeting with absolute precision. The price tag successfully civilized and scaled the Western retail market into a multi-trillion-dollar juggernaut. But do not mistake a static price for an objective reality, because while we stopped haggling with humans, corporations found a way to use algorithms to haggle behind our backs. The American outliers and the ghost of the algorithm. While haggling is completely dead in your local grocery store or gas station, it survives in specific high-stakes American micro pockets. More dangerously, it has secretly mutated into the digital space. The only places Americans casually encounter traditional face-to-face bargaining are flea markets, like I previously said, yard sales, that one I didn't say, and farmers markets, said that one. In these specific informal environments, the corporate agent is removed. You are dealing directly with the owner of the goods, allowing raw human intuition and immediate cash clearance to override standard fixed rules. In the mainstream US economy, haggling is strictly gatekept and reserved for massive high-value purchases like homes, you heard it, homes, automobiles, and corporate salaries. These life-altering transactions involve massive informational gaps, high stakes, and complex financing layers. Because of this, the efficiency of a fixed price tag breaks down, forcing Americans back into an uncomfortable negotiation arena. Even when an American price tag appears fixed and official, it is often a psychological illusion engineered to exploit your brain. Retailers deliberately display a massively inflated MSRP or old price tag alongside a markdown. They trick your mind into thinking you just won a silent algorithmic negotiation without saying a word. Silicon Valley tech platforms have effectively substituting human conversation with automated algorithms. When you buy an airline ticket or order an Uber during a rainstorm, the price shifts in real time. It fluctuates based on immediate market demands, supply levels, and your personal data profile. Digital surge pricing is a highly sophisticated, completely one-sided digital haggle. The corporate algorithm is actively testing the absolute upper limits of your financial desperation. It checks to see exactly how much you are willing to pay before you close the app. The absolute psychological death of haggling means the modern American consumer has lost a vital survival skill. Because we are accustomed to treat written numbers as immutable physical laws, we have become passive, compliant price takers. This leaves us completely defenseless against the silent, creeping devastation of corporate inflation. And this is just the beginning. Don't get me started with left you hanging there. The ultimate reality check of modern economic grid is that whether you are shouting over a box of mangoes in a bustling global bazaar, or silently pushing a plastic cart down a sterilized supermarket aisle in suburban America. The price you see is never an objective law of physics. It is either a human conversation or a corporate story packaged into a barcode. And if you don't know how the story is written, you are the one paying the premium. And if you like this episode about haggling, do me a solid. Help me with those numbers and hit the subscribe button right now and text this episode to a friend who hates paying full retail. Maintaining these independent episodes without corporate trackers or platform sponsors requires a genuine, unhinged amount of high-grade caffeine. So hitting the Buy Me a Coffee link down in the description is what keeps our studio mic hot and the research moving forward. Until next time, stay sharp, read the vibes, and I'll catch you on the next episode of LTS. Stay frosty.